Time today to discuss this and other issues, of course. Let's bring in one of our regular political panels. Aaron Violi is a Liberal MP for Casey and Luke Gosling is Labor MP for Solomon in the studio. Very exciting to have you both.
Good to be here. Was
that an own goal by your side, asking questions about Medicare when, if you look at history, there was a freeze, there have been attempts at actually taking money and really taking money. What's that all about?
It's absolutely not a known goal, PK. Let's look at the facts. Let's look at my community in Casey. In 2019, bulk billing rates, 84%. In 2023, under the Albanese Labor government, 73. So it's gone from 84 to 73. For too long, the Labor Party have talked about, much like Werribee, they've talked about, their constituents that they take for granted. They claim they're the party for health and they run this Medicare line every time they're under pressure, but the data doesn't back it up. The Coalition has invested significantly in health and we're calling out the scare campaigns and the lies of the Albanese Labor government. We saw the hubris of Mark Butler there.
I have to challenge you. You say the evidence doesn't prove it. Peter Dutton froze the Medicare rebate for 6 years.
Also, it was actually started under the Gillard Rudd. I'm not sure who was in charge at that time. As Peter Dutton explained in Parliament yesterday, it actually started under the member for Sydney, who's Tanya Plibersek. So it started under the ALP, which they don't like to talk about. So it started under their government. It was continued under the Coalition, but actually started again under them. So again, the facts don't back up the spin that the government like to run when it comes to
Let
Medicare.
me put that...
it wasn't a bad effort to try.
It was a reasonable effort, but the rebate being frozen, that is a relevant point.
But it
does predate.
It's also crap. I mean...
Well, no, that is actually true.
It's facts.
So what Mark Butler did today is point out the truth, is what Tanya Plibersek, as Health Minister at the time, did in 2013, was completely different to what Peter Dutton then did. He ripped $50 billion out of health budgets for hospitals. It's not a good record. But freezing the bulk billing rates, he really wanted to just totally transform Medicare into a user pay system. That's what Peter Dutton tried to do.
Well, there was a proposal that was withdrawn and was never acted upon.
But obviously it's a truism that doctors voted him the worst ever health minister for a reason, right? They drove down bulk billing and made it harder for people and wanted to charge people to see a doctor. So I think and people don't just forget that. So we've tripled bulk billing. I mean, let's talk about, as a government, what we've done. We've tripled the bulk billing incentive. We've got a long way to go to sort of improve the damage that was done. But Australians know that they used to be able to, in years gone by, get bulk billing services if they needed to. Then doctors stopped doing it because it didn't add up anymore for them because they'd frozen the bulk billing indexation.
Sorry, the facts don't back that up. As I said in Casey, 84% the bulk billing rate in 2019. It actually went to 88% in 2022. And supposedly, bulk billing for COVID doesn't count, according to Mark Butler. That was the line he ran. So from 2019, 84% in my community, down last year, in 2023, we don't have the 24 data yet, down to 73%. I don't know the Solomon numbers. I reckon it'd be similar because, as we heard today, the member for Sturt had similar numbers, the member for Longman. So you sit there and claim that under the Coalition it went down. The facts, the data from the government shows that it actually went up. It just proves it's a scare campaign because the data doesn't back it up. I'm not making those numbers up. They're legitimate.
I can't look at every electorate right now, although I want to, but I don't have the time. I want to move on to another issue, but health was a big issue in question time, which is why we began there, of course. Looks like there might be a deal that the independents are not overwhelmingly happy about between the major parties for electoral reform. Do you want to see that pass this week? This is being pitched as getting the big money out of politics, but it does seem to advantage the big parties.
Well, we haven't seen, I certainly haven't seen any legislation, so it's hard to speak to the detail. I mean, it's not surprising those that are supported by Climate 200 don't want any reforms to come through. If you look at the AEC data, the two biggest donors, $1 million each, were two climate energy investors that gave their money to Climate 200. So I can understand when you spend upwards of $2 million in one single seat. You don't want that to stop. But we hear from our communities, I mean, you look at the disclosures that we're talking about, that was from last financial year. So I've heard from my community they'd like more transparency in that, and we'll see what the detail is. But I mean, it's hard to see why anyone would argue against a bit more transparency.
Yeah, but that's not all it is. It means that if you're if you're a local, independent candidate, you've got a cap. It was last reported, I think, at $800,000.
Well, I'm going to have a cap. Aaron is going to have a cap.
No. Will you really, though? Because the Labor brand can run without your image or without your name, but as a brand still, whereas an independent can't do that. And of course, there's a national spend there too. Come on.
There's going to be a lot more transparency. Can I say...
You haven't responded to that. That is a different...
caps.
Yeah, that is different. You'll get an advantage because you have the Labor Party brand behind you.
Because there's negotiations still going on. I can't obviously go into the details, but donations are going to be capped and spending's going to be capped, and that's sensible. And what Don Farrell's doing is reaching out across the chambers and talking to everyone and saying, look, what's sensible here? But what we've heard is a message, obviously, for a long time from the public. And let's face it, if Labor was in the government, this would never be happening. But what the Liberal Party are trying to do is get some of those teal seats back, and people in those teal seats have got brains.
Well, aren't you helping them?
And what they want, helping who?
Well, aren't you helping them get the teal seats? Aren't you making it harder for them to continue to kind of run in those seats?
Teals can go out there and put their value proposition to their electorate, and people can donate a reasonable amount. And I think that's what Australians are after. But they want more transparency about who's giving that money. So I think our reforms, let's hope we can get them through. But we want everyone across the chamber to agree, because that's what Australians want.
That point about the brand, though, that's true, isn't it?
Well, again, it's hard to talk to the detail. If you look at the detail that was proposed last year, there's actually less money per seat that can be spent by a party if you add up the amounts. But I would say, I mean, if the Climate 200 Teals are really upset, it's not the Liberal Party and Labor Party that are getting the money, it's political parties. They can always form their own political party.
How about if they don't want to? They just want to run as an independent?
They act in every way as a party other than declaring they're a party.
They would refute that. They're not.
They share resources for campaigning. They share donors. They turn up in each other's electorates to support each other. They share social media. They do everything other as a party except for saying they're a party. So they have the option to create a political party. We're not creating, without seeing the detail, laws just for the Liberal Party and for the Labor Party. It applies to every political party, to the Greens, the Palmer Party, One Nation, any other party that wants to be created. So this line, it doesn't stack up. It is ironic that they talked about transparency, yet apparently 800,000 donation, is too much. I mean, he just said only three people, Anthony Pratt to the Labor Party and two energy investors to Climate 200.
How about you?
Donated
Who
$1
are
million.
your donors, to be fair?
Donated $1 million.
Who are your donors?
PK,
Come on, if you're going to name the others.
All my
Well, we need
donors.
transparency on that.
And
Exactly right.
I follow the rules to the letter. I declare all my donations. I'm very happy to follow the rules, as everyone should. And I'll continue to do that.
Look, I read all of the donations, and what appeared to me is that rich people are giving money to all of you at different rates, and different rich people. That's what was a common theme. Would you agree with that?
Some unions in there as well.
Yeah.
Was there a particular party that happened to get most of the
Well, you
millionaires
did have the.
donations?
Yeah, there were.
But the point,
anyway, people
and
can look it up. Real-time disclosure.
That goes to the point. Real-time disclosure and a lower threshold solves those problems that we're saying we want to work towards.
Okay. Let's see if the deal's done this week. You've been a great panel. Thank you.
Thanks, PK. Thanks, Luke.
PK.
Authorised by Aaron Violi, Liberal Party, Lilydale.